Well, at the end of day one at Old Trafford, it's time for Ask George. Well, George, it's nice to be doing one of these in person for a change.
Isn't it?
What's your verdict on day one?
Well, I think England have had the best of the day, obviously, but there's a lot of cricket to play, and I suspect we might get a day or two off.
Well, Paul comes in with exactly that point. He asks, why can't these grounds make wickets that last 5 days? They do it in the county season and it's terrible for the fans when they don't.
Is it? Paul, I thought it was a really entertaining day, no? I thought it was really entertaining. And also, didn't all those 3 tests against New Zealand go to 5 days? So, I mean, you know, I don't know really. I'm going squeaky because I thought it was really good fun, Paul.
Well, Mark Hammond asks, if Robinson stays fit, do you see Broad dropping to first change more?
Well, you know, maybe, but there's only one more test this summer and it looks like Broad might not go to Pakistan because he's having his first child, which is lovely. So, you know, how many tests do Anderson and Broad have left in them? I mean, who knows? But I thought Robinson bowled really, really well, and he would want to take the new ball, and Broad did a good job with the older ball. So, one way or another, I suspect Robinson is England's new ball bowler looking forward for a few years, you know, obviously fitness notwithstanding. But whether, you know, how many tests Broad has left in him, who knows?
What did you think of Robinson's performance today? It was actually nice seeing him bowl, you know, 12, 13, 14 overs without any change, really.
I thought he bowled really well. I don't think he was very lucky. I don't think his figures do any justice. Obviously, he overstepped, which cost him a wicket. Frustrating. He'll be the most frustrated person, won't he? But I thought it was a really encouraging performance. I don't think there's much doubt that he's good enough.
Vijay asks, did Elgar choose to bat because he wants to see if his bowlers can contain Bazball?
Look, I think he just made a mistake. But there was a little hint there in the press conference that actually they'd picked 2 spinners, which I get, and then they were kind of trying to justify the 2 spinners. It's probably the wrong way around of doing things, but I get why they went with this attack, because the seamers are so good that maybe you don't need the extra one. And, you know, it does add a bit of variety. Jansen did add variety and height and all the rest of it, but he was also the loosest. And Harmer's never going to be loose, so I can sort of see why they did it. And maybe had they got to lunch, you know, I suppose old-fashioned Test cricket, you back your openers to get through. Maybe they got to lunch 1 or 2 down. That would have been absolutely fine. You know, conditions did ease, but it was really, really difficult in the morning. And you know, England's bowlers loved it, didn't they?
Do you think they missed Jansen's batting?
But potentially yes, but it's not as if Harmer can't bat. He just didn't do very well today.
John Caswell asks, why don't people just give up their wickets when England bowl 80-mile-an-hour bounces at them? It's not fair, is it?
Obviously a sarcastic question, and it is infuriating. To be fair to England, I think the balls are still going out of shape, so they don't feel they're doing anything by the time it gets to the period where they're bowling at the tail. So they were very disappointed with the ball today. They reckon it went out of shape after 20-odd overs. So it wasn't swinging or seaming as much. They also say statistically they've got evidence that it's working. My frustration with it is that it seems to be, generally anyway, a bit either one thing or the other. They set fields for the short ball and they do it relentlessly. I still think the short ball works best as a surprise, and actually we saw that today with Harmer. Harmer lunged forward for that first ball, or the ball before he was out to Anderson. Apparently Broad had a little word with Anderson and said, put your square leg back, as if you're going to bowl short, and then go full again on the same ball. And that's what happened. Harmer saw the field move, was a little bit slow to prop forward, and you know, it's a leg before wicket. So maybe that slightly more sophisticated approach is the way to go. So I share your frustration with the short ball attack sometimes, but I can kind of see why, if the ball's not doing anything else, it's you know, it has worked a couple of times, hasn't it? So yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from there.
Do you think England are in danger of letting teams off the hook a couple of times though? 'Cause, I mean, they did it in the Ashes a couple of times where they had teams in good positions. They did it against New Zealand. I mean, today it didn't cost them that much, but they still had South Africa 108 for 8, I think, and then
It did
let
cost
them get
them,
another
I think,
40 odd.
at Lords. I mean, they did bowl the number one side in the World Test Championship out for 151 today. So let's not lose sight of that. They had a good day. It did cost them last week, but also Ben Stokes got several wickets. So these things are never black and white. I'm not positive they've got the attack to do it. Not without Jofra or Mark Wood, anyway. And as I say, I just think it's better used a little bit more sparingly, even though I appreciate that the field maybe wants to change a little bit more. But it's sort of about, they're trying to intimidate. It's obviously Stokes' ploy, and you can see it's like the way he plays, isn't it? Jimmy Anderson's terribly good at like pitching it up and nipping it around. Might be his strength. So I can't remember what the question was, but I don't think it's a brilliant tactic, and I do think they overplay it. Yeah.
Dave focuses on England's batting and asks, will England achieve much in Test cricket with nobody in the top 3 averaging over 31?
Is that the stat? Well, that's an arresting stat. And obviously that's not a great sign. I suppose you would say that maybe all of those players are in the development stage of their career. It's maybe a generous interpretation, but they are, aren't they? You would hope that Ollie Pope pushes his average much higher up than that. You would hope that Zach Crawley did as well. And so, if those guys finish their careers with those averages, well, they'll be finishing their careers quite soon. Ollie Pope was the top scorer, wasn't he, at Lords for England? So you would say they're probably going in the right direction. I thought Zach Crawley had a really good day. Thought he battled, obviously still some issues, but I thought he showed good temperament and did a good job for England today. The point being, you raise a really arresting stat, and it's obviously a bit alarming, but the story isn't over.
And the final question is from Lord Lupin. He asks, should
Your
county
Lordship.
cricket members be central to the future as they bring little revenue to the table?
Well, do they? Did he specify how much?
He gives 11% at Somerset as a
I wonder how you're judging that. If you mean of membership income, I wonder how you're judging that, because presumably those members are the cricket lovers who then buy their Sky subscriptions, may well buy tickets for Test matches, may buy merchandise, they may buy beers and hot dogs. So I'm always very uneasy when the sort of county member is, I'm not saying that you are, Your Lordship, but in any way sort of patronised, because they have been loyal, supportive, cricket lovers for a long time. But I appreciate that you raise a fair point. Does this fairly small number of people, or whatever it is in the county game, 60,000, 70,000 perhaps, should they be dictating the future direction of the game? And the answer to that is clearly no. But should they have a voice? Hell yes, they should have a voice. And have they had a voice in recent years? No. So the reason they mobilise now is because they're angry. And I get why they're angry, because no one bloody listened to them when the 100 was foisted upon them. So this time they're making sure they have a say. Should it be the whole say? Should they be trying to bully their counties into what they want? Well, no, of course they shouldn't. But I get that they feel they need to shout right now, because no one's listened to them for a long time. Just on that point, though, I'm a little bit uneasy that some county supporters want a retention of the status quo. The status quo is rubbish. No one can think that this current fixture list is good. So let us be a little bit open-minded about what is suggested. Let us discuss it. But yeah, the game needs to listen to those voices, because if they don't, it's, there will be repercussions this time. I think that. So I take the point of the question. You have a valid point in there, but I hope I'm making it clear that I do think it's important that those voices are listened to, and I think those people have been patronised and ignored for too long, and they deserve a bit more respect than they sometimes receive, as does county cricket generally, which I know is often seen as staged and reactionary, but it is where this day cricket started. It is where T20 cricket started. It was the two-division championship game that in the early years of this century produced a team that went on to be number one in the world, won Test series in Australia and India. It can be pretty bloody good, but we need to invest in it and respect it.